Go. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning, Steve.
Nice to see everybody. We are going to talk today about dreams. I just planned this for a while and have read a couple of books on dreams and by a psychologist. And so hopefully there's a little actual thought behind it and not just wacky ideas about dreams. But I thought it would be a good topic. And, I'm following on Mark's sermon last week, started off talking about dreams too. So we'll cover a little bit of that too. So with that, our usual announcements. Zoomers, please mute yourself on the lower left corner of your screen when you're not talking. Keep the noise down, and we are recording this for future playback. And other announcements. What did y'all think of the sermon today on what is the Bible?
Wow. Like a lecture.
It was like a college level graduate course mixed in with poetic symbolism of the beacon from God. And don't take the Bible literally, but it's still inspired by God. And I thought it was very.
Did you take the test on the back of the bulletin?
Pardon me, Sharon?
There's a little test on the back of the bulletin, or not a test.
Yeah. Oh,
so you can fill in, the words or what you're thinking. Yeah, it's just this phrase for his thumb up that he does at the end of the sermon. It's in there now. It's a fill in the blank.
Okay, good. I didn't see it this time.
But there, you can add whatever you want. I know that everybody really likes it.
Mistake away. It's good. Okay. Well, today I'm going to give a little bit summary of these books about thoughts about dreams, but I want to hear your dreams too, and I want to know what your recurring dreams are. There's a story in there for each of us too. Okay, I'm going to jump in today. Any other announcements? Everybody a Chiefs fan today for the big football game?
We have big party.
Any predictions? Anybody want to make a prediction on the score? Steve, what do you think? 27-24 Chiefs. 27-24 Chiefs. See, that's about what I'm thinking too.
Put a little money in that, Steve. I don't know. I'm that sure. I'll have to call. I have a grandson that was friend of my son last night. He doesn't care about we're gonna hide out with plates of food.
Good for you. That's wonderful. Okay, doing a share screen here. Susan, can you see the share screen? Is it okay? Okay, we'll take that as a yes. Okay, we'll just jump right on in here. Dreams, what are dreams? This book describes them as the pictures and stories in our mind when we sleep. And it starts off telling about his Bible days. Dreams were, well, let me talk about the last sermon before we get to the Bible days. Last week, Mark started off his sermon by saying, do you have any recurring dreams? You know, the repeat offender kind of dreams that show up unannounced in our consciousness. About 75% of adults experience recurring dreams. Some of the most common ones are falling, flying, losing your teeth.
I've never heard of that one.
I've never heard of that. Taking an exam to study for, that's a popular one. Not being able to speak, and public nakedness. Some are cruel, like the one I have on about Sunday mornings, and I get to the church and start the sermon, and it occurred to me I never actually got around to writing. What do I do then? So, but then you may remember that he talked about exploring other rooms and other places in your theology. Really made a whole sermon out of that. So I thought that was a good analogy too.
He could probably ad lib.
Yeah, he could make anything.
He could make anything up and make a whole sermon out of it.
Yeah, I think it's good too. Okay, a short history of dreams. The ancients thought that dreams were the spirits speaking to us through our mind. The Jews were revered interpreters of dreams. The Israelite prophet Daniel interpreted, you may remember the story, of course, one of King Nebuchadnezzar's dreams accurately predicted the king's 7 years of madness. And so they believed Daniel was an accurate interpreter of dreams. Also, Joseph, the dream interpreter of the coat of many colors, who was sold into slavery. He was able to rise to power under the Pharaoh because he correctly interpreted the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of lean that the Pharaoh endured. The Egyptians also did much to systematize dream interpretation. They also understood dreams in the sense of opposite. They thought a happy dream was a message about coming disaster. So they had the idea of opposites. They also created dream temples. They built 300 shrines that served as dream oracles, they called it. People would sleep in them, thinking that they would induce good dreams, and they would also become centers for healing. The sick would sleep there also, hoping for a visitation from the God of healing, who provided remedies for physical ills. And Plato, in his 4th century writings, took a less mystical view of dreams, believing it was the liver that caused dreams. Some secretions from the liver. Lots of strange things. And the Egyptians even had their own book of dreams, with trying to show the interpretations of them, with creatures flying and escorting the dead to the next world. Then it came along in modern times. Sigmund Freud came out with his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, in 1899. And of course, with Freud, it was all about sex. Sigmund Freud, in 1899, in his mid-40s, published his monumental work, The Interpretation of Dreams. He was a neurologist. For Freud, the unconscious was the primary seat of desires and impulses of a sexual nature. And dreams, he believed, were simply wish fulfillments, expressions of repressed ideas that forced their way into our consciousness, that we would not let be thought of during our waking hours, but they would come out at night as repressed desires. He argued that the function of dreaming is to preserve our sleep by preventing our wishes and desires from waking us up. So they wouldn't wake us up, we would just have this silent dreams. But today, scientists have a consensus, somewhat a consensus, that dreams are simply part of the brain linking random images when the brain's neurons are resting and repairing themselves. Dreams are simply an accidental byproduct of random electrical discharges, many scientists believe today, and the only reason they have any meaning is because the brain tries to add meaning after the fact. The fact is, we don't know who has the right answer. This is from another book on dreams. It's kind of depressing to think that our dreams may be random and meaningless, especially since some of us think there is obvious relevance to what's going on in our lives. Almost everyone dreams at some time or another, but we don't know exactly what the right answer is or what the source of origin is. Pregnant women often dream of having strange births from their children. Soon-to-be newlyweds often dream of having a last fling with a former flame. The dreams are also culturally based. The study of 175 countries show that the dreams come out of the cultural context that people are in. In Canada, for example, bears are more likely to be pursuing you than any other object in your dreams. So it does have to do with that. And this one, this little graphic was kind of a dream, and it related it to chess also, but dreams are often random things just strung together. You might have the royal that couple there with a horse jumping over them, and images that don't make any sense in the rational world. Okay, but sometimes dreams are linked to solving problems and are clearly the brain working on things that have been thought of during the day. And let me give you a couple examples. There are people like Tesla. I believe this was the inventor named Tesla, who said, "I saw inventions and ideas come to me through my dreams." The prescription that we should sleep on problems is well known. Some part of the mind continues working on problems at night we could not find solutions to during the day. A famous example is the German chemist Haeckel, who claimed discovered a groundbreaking discovery about the molecular structure of benzene. He couldn't get it during the daytime, but he fell asleep and dreamed of molecules dancing before his eyes, forming patterns like a snake that was later called the benzene ring. And when he awoke, he wrote this down, and it turned out to be true, the answer that he was looking for. And there are many examples, it says, of that in science and music. People in music creating music in their brains, waking up and writing down the music for something they couldn't finish during their waking hours. There are also those that believe they've been visited by a dream ghost, someone who revealed an object or a chemical formula to them during their dreams. One of those was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania who was trying to decipher an ancient Babylonian code language. He couldn't do that during his waking hours, but he dreamt that he was visited by a ghost who unlocked fragments of this code, and the professor woke up and wrote it down, and it turned out to be true and unlocked the code he was trying to discover. So examples of that. Have you all ever had any such thing work out in your mind during, you have, Steve?
Oh, yeah.
Like what?
Problems, usually logical problems that I can't find a solution for. And I'll wake up and just have this epiphany that, oh yeah, if you're standing on the ladder at the top rung versus the bottom rung, where's most of the force from the earth to hold you up? And I fought with that for like 3 weeks. I was trying to figure out a physics problem. It's like, well, of course, you're up here. From the top rung of a 10-foot ladder, there's going to be more force from the ground than if you're on the bottom. And anyway, that happened.
And what was yours, Steve?
Figuring out why something didn't work.
Okay.
It
worked.
And it came to me in a dream. Try this solution. And I did the next day, and it worked.
Interesting.
That's happened to me several times.
Did you wake up and write it down right away, or just remembered it?
I just remembered it. It was so obvious what I was supposed to do. And then I shared it with the engineer the next day, and he said, "Oh, I never thought of that."
Maybe you didn't sleep as well as
he doesn't dream as good as you.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, let me share a couple more things with you, and then I want to hear more about our dreams, and I'll tell you some of mine too. The stages of sleep are important in understanding when we dream too. Stage 1 basically is the first 5 minutes that you're asleep. It's called light sleep, right after you drift off. You then go into a different brainwave pattern. Stage 2, light sleep, your brain relaxes, and it's best to wake up during this stage. So once you go into deeper sleep, then you come back to a light stage like stage 2. Stage 3 is deep sleep. Your brain and your body are recovering. If you wake up during the stage 3, you'll be groggy. because your brain is in that chemical regenerating period. And stage 4 is REM sleep that we've heard about. And that's the deepest stage when you really are doing vivid dreams. And you can have a great feeling of unrest. It said if you wake up during REM sleep, you can feel disoriented. And you should have come back up to the lighter stages before you wake up. So it really is during the deepest stage, REM stage, that we do the most dreaming. But there is also some semi-dreaming, they call it, or lucid dreaming in that lighter stage too. And it is interesting. Let me read just a little bit to you here, page 18, about this lighter dreaming stage. This one is where people are often starting to dream and can be aware that they're dreaming. So if you're in a lighter stage, you can have the images come, but your waking mind is still there, and you're saying, I'm actually aware that I'm dreaming. This stage is also illogical in its scenery, even more so than deeper dreams. And suddenly people can become alert to the fact that they're dreaming. This is the stage, lucid dreaming, perhaps that is the easiest to control. And many cultures have tried to teach people how to direct their dreams in the lucid dreaming state. It was a Dutch doctor in 1913 who coined the phrase lucid dreaming, meaning a fake world cleverly imitated to imitate the real world. Hindus and Buddhists are some of the most adept in meditative arts and try and enter this lucid dreaming state through meditation. Other cultures have tried it too, and there are various techniques about looking for your hand or trying to say things, mantras, before you go to sleep to send yourself into a state where you can control this light dream. So with that in mind, let's share a little more. What are some of your common recurring dreams? Falling, flying?
Falling.
Falling, Carol?
I wake up in a sweat. I never land.
You never land?
Oh, I crash in bed. I go boom.
Yeah, it's a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that lately too, and I'd be fighting someone in my dreams, and then my hands will be kicking and punching, and Vicky will wake me up and say, stop hitting me.
Yeah, Ron's done that. We had to get a new mattress, a king size bed.
I wonder what your position has to do with it. I notice when I sleep in the chair, I never dream. But when I lie down in the bed, I dream.
Interesting. I haven't read anything about that, Jim. I don't know. It's not really mentioned in the books. I haven't. That's a good question. Yeah.
A long time ago, I was talking to a shrink, and I thought about it many times since then. When we start thinking about our dreams, we start comparing them to movies or to other shows or something like that happening outside of us, where there is a protagonist and an antagonist, and things are happening to that main character.
Yeah.
But the psychiatrist said, you have to remember that every part of a dream is you. Everything happening to the main character and that the main character is doing to somebody else. Everything, all the satellite things are all you, because it's your dream. You're making up for the side things too. And when you start thinking about your dreams doing that, there's a lot of information.
My dreams are stress related, like goes clear back to childhood and not getting dressed for the school bus. Or in college, not getting to class on time, or being able to find the room, or
Oh, I have that one of my recurring dreams. Get to college and I don't have my schedule where I'm supposed to be. So I'm going from building to building thinking, is this the biology class?
Yeah.
Nobody, have you ever had that, Carol?
I mean, that's weird. You wake up and you're lost. You're kind of,
Yes.
you feel what you felt in the dream for a minute.
But why would we do that? If we never had that in real life, is it showing some insecurity we have?
Well, I had it in real life too. Trying to find the right room.
Good question. Okay. Zoomers, I want to let you come in too. I want to hear your dreams too. Susan or anybody, you have recurring dreams you want to share? Lola.
Good morning. I had a series of dreams. It was kind of like, it was before Netflix, but when I was working, and it was like season 1, episode 1, 2, 3. And every night for a number of nights, I dreamed about being on a form of water and on some kind of watercraft. And it would be like a lake one night, or the ocean one night, a river one night, and it'd be on different, like a canoe, maybe a raft, maybe a cruise ship. But every time there was a crisis, and my job was to save people. So it was kind of exhausting. and then it kind of stopped, but I bet I did it 5 to 7 times nights in a row. Different.
Oh, weird. I've never heard of that. Many nights in a row, the same.
Yes.
What do you think it meant, Paula?
I think I was putting out a lot of fires, maybe at home, at work, you know, feeling responsible for kind of everything.
Okay, good point.
That could be
interesting.
And water is supposed to mean something in a dream, but I don't know what it is.
We will look that up here in a few minutes. We'll tell what some of the most common symbols are supposed to mean.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, anybody else?
Steve, sometimes if I have something I'm planning, say a party or something like that, and I've got all these things I have to do, I'll wake up and it will have sorted itself out. I mean, I know what I need to do and, you know, the process, but really strange.
Brain working out. Yes, Mark.
I had a series of dreams when I first retired from the police department. I think they were called paralytic dreams. That's what I was called. That where you can't move. And I think I had a small portion of PTSD, but I would dream, you know, like people were coming in the windows and standing by the bed. And I was laying in bed and I could see them, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't raise my arms, my legs. But I could shout out help. And I did verbally do that in the middle of the night, which, you know, during the summer, I was hoping my neighbors didn't.
Yeah.
But that went on for several months, pretty regular. But it's that feeling of you need to do something, but you can't raise your arms.
Yes. Why would that be? I've had similar ones too.
Paralytic.
Paralytic.
You still have
to?
No. You're safe.
Very interesting.
No, I just wondering.
Anybody else?
No, just a couple months.
When I was a child, I had dreams of zooming through the universe, but the universe was kind of like a grid, so I knew how fast and how far I was going, and I've had that a couple times throughout life. It's been interesting.
We're doing like flying.
Yeah.
Like this image we have on the screen now. Very good. I have that too sometimes. You know, in the same position that this guy is in. Just like my arms are out and I can just soar like an eagle and like you adjust where you're going.
Steve?
Yes, go right ahead.
Grant wanted to know if anybody has any information regarding dreaming and sleep apnea.
I did not read anything in these 2 books that I read about it. No. Grant, do you think there would be some connection?
Yeah, well, what happens in sleep apnea, you were showing the 4 stages of sleep. And in sleep apnea, you only go to the 2nd stage, and then you stop breathing and you rouse yourself, but not to full consciousness. And then you continue to sleep, but you don't get to the dreams. And when you wake up, you're totally exhausted. You didn't dream at all. And I had that for, several years. I had the CPAP machine that I'd hook up every night. And once I started with the CPAP machine, then I would not stop breathing, and I would get into the 4th stage and I would dream. And that's sleep apnea. And so you don't dream and you're exhausted. I mean, completely exhausted when you don't dream. So from what I've understood, if you don't dream, you don't get into the 4th stage, and you don't get into the 4th stage. And somewhere along the line, I've read where if you dream, your brain is refreshed, and then it comes back, and then you're the next day you are refreshed and ready to go.
I agree with that.
Yes, the books do say that dreams are either in themselves reparative, or they're a signal that your brain is in the state where the chemicals are repairing themselves, and the dreams are a byproduct of that. So that seems pretty clear. Interesting.
Steve, I've had an unusual experience occasionally that I would wake up and then go back to sleep and pick up on the same way where it left off.
Oh, really? Is that right, Joe? You can wake up and you go back to sleep and just continue the dream where you left off.
Right.
That's what he said. I never had that. I don't think I've ever had that. Jim has?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really? That's
your brain puts it on pause.
There was a funny little graphic on the internet, of course. This guy says, I don't always remember my dreams, but when I do, they're the sexy ones. They're the memorable ones. Yeah. So that's another whole category, love or relationship dreams and sex dreams. Do we still have those? And do you remember those? Do you have dreams of lost love or your own spouse? What do you think? What about you, Linda?
I don't have those kinds of dreams, but I had a really, really bizarre dream.
Okay, tell us.
It's really bizarre. Anyhow, and it must have happened sometime after Trump. Okay. And it must have happened sometime around the Women's History Month.
Okay. Okay.
It's the only connections I can see. Anyhow, Senator Bennett asked me to speak to the House of Representatives, not the Senate, but the House of Representatives. I don't know.
Interesting.
It's a dream, folks. I have no idea what I was talking about. And of course, when you go, you're just talking to the record, and there's hardly anybody in the room. So anyhow, I did whatever I was supposed to do. And then when I was done, we walked out, and he asked me what I was going to do on a Friday. And I said, well, I'm going to take the train to Fredericksburg, where my grandson Charlie goes to school, and spend the weekend with him. And I said, but I've got to go and find out where the heck I catch this train. And he said, oh, I'll show you. There's one real close to us. So we went down an anteroom, and it was a big anteroom with a wide stairway going down and a hallway along this side. And there were all these pictures of famous women and what they had done in history. And he told me that just right outside that end door was
a training station for this special train that would get me to Fredericksburg, and told me the time that it came. So I had some time to kill. So I was very slowly walking down the hall, reading all of this information. And evidently Trump came out of the side door here and had some obnoxious things to me that I didn't know until I saw a video, because the whole place was, you know, under surveillance. And but I ignored him because I didn't hear him. Obvious. And he came up and he grabbed me by the arm and said some obnoxious things. And the next thing I knew, his hands were all over my body. And I remember grabbing every inch of strength that I could. Just every bit of strength I could get. And I shoved it. And he stumbled on his feet, fell down the stairway.
Good.
Made into a movie.
I looked over the banister, and he was sitting, you know, I mean, he was laying there. And I was afraid to go down and check him out because I figured he'd jump up and grab me. So I started screaming for security. It turned out he broke his neck and was paralyzed from the neck. Somehow security comes flying out, and of course they assume I did something horrible. And so they looked at the videos and saw all this. And there's a bunch of other stuff, but I went on my way after being interviewed and all that sort of stuff. When I woke up the next morning, my body was so sore from pushing. With my arms were sore, the back of my back was sore, legs where I was pushing all day long. My body was so sore. You were really working out.
Yeah. Remembered it vividly, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay,
who did you vote for?
One guess.
Let me tell you about 3 types of dreams, the book says.
Does mine fit in there?
Yeah.
What does that say? Not in these 3 main types of dreams. I'm sure that's a category unto itself. 3 main types are called predictive dreams, farewell dreams, and tipster dreams. Predictive dreams are those in which people claim that they have a dream about something happens to someone and then it comes true. Yes. Or something. An example was in 1902, a British engineer named Dunn said he had a dream about the eruption of Mount Pelée in Martinique, and that it was going to kill 4,000 people specifically. And he tried to tell people this at the time. Nobody believed him. After Mount Pelée exploded, shortly after that, it killed 40,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And he claimed that he had just got the number of zeros wrong in his prediction on the number of deaths. But his timing and the number 4 were predictive things he thought came to him accurately in a dream. The next kind is called farewell dreams, and those are having to do with the death of loved ones or one's own death. An example is that Abraham Lincoln said that he dreamed of his own death in 1865 and told people about it shortly before it happened. In his dream, he told people he wandered around a death-like White House, following far-off sounds of pitiful sobbing. He finally entered the East Room to see a corpse laid out with his face covered, and he was told, he asked someone there, who is it? And they said, it's the president. he was killed by an assassin.
Wow.
It was only a matter of days later that the assassin, John Wilkes Booth, did indeed murder Lincoln. Wow. I had never heard that story. That Lincoln did you hear, Steve? Interesting. And the lighter topic of tipster dreams, a number of people say that they have accurately predicted casino games and horse races. One man said he dreamed of the correct winners on 3 successive nights, and so he went to the racetrack and won on those bets.
Oh, is there anything about Super Bowl?
Oh, Super Bowl is really good. That's right. That's right. What do you think about that? This is under the category of ESP, also for saying that predictive dreams, especially. Maybe it is someone's brain connecting with the thoughts of someone else who is going to have something happen. And Jane, have you ever had that kind of thing happen, or not that you can remember?
Not specifically. This is such a fascinating area, Steve. I'm just eager to hear everything you have to say. I do have a reaction when you finish, but
well, go ahead now. What are your thoughts on the dreams?
Well, DreamWorks, you know, is a big film company. DreamWorks. Dreams have the potential of being nightmares. Certainly, if you've been around combat veterans with PTSD, it's a source of creativity for some. It's pleasant and with a good bit of arousal for others. But on the religious and spiritual dimension, Stephen, I don't know if you're going to get at this or not. We had a few years back on psychedelics, the enhancement of religious consciousness and the mystical presence. They're doing a lot of research, as many of us around the table know, as to enhance one's religious or spiritual consciousness. Native American Church has peyote, has used peyote, LSD, various psychedelics, even LSD, under controlled conditions back at Johns Hopkins University right now. They're having some very interesting research under controlled conditions that enhance people in this kind of dream state where the unconscious can create feelings of wellness and well-being, one with the universe, with one's fellow man, etc. So I think this is a fascinating area. What we have in the brain that can be unleashed under proper conditions, not abuse, but the potential for tapping that aspect of our semi-consciousness, consciousness. I think this is just a fascinating topic. Fascinating topic. Go ahead.
Is that how hypnosis?
What's that?
Is that have a relation to hypnosis? Is that why, you know, they used to try to do hypnosis to release some of
It's
those?
probably related. It's related.
Yeah.
I'm not an authority on
I haven't.
I think it's related. It's in that genre. Yes.
Yeah.
Being able to tap that unconscious part of our brain, which has a lot of creativity and the healthfulness. That's what the health people are studying. The potential for reducing anxiety and depressive disorders and traumas that people have been through. And there's great potential. There's some real sound research going on right now as we talk. So, in the marijuana state, I mean, this is, this is all open for discussion.
Yes.
Treating.
Well, Elon Musk perfects the neural implants.
They dreaming to a new level. Sure. Let me read you a little something about nightmares. Here also relates to what we were both talking about and what Mark was saying. It says, for all their unpleasantness, nightmares serve a useful function. They draw our attention to the fears and forebodings that hatch in our unconscious. Even if the actual content of a dream seems harmless, all dreams can convey a sense of menace, terror, or loathing. Typically, the dreamer feels threatened by something against which he or she has no defense. The most frequently reported nightmare theme is of being chased, yet being unable to move. This might be because the dreamer becomes subliminally aware of the loss of muscle tone, which accompanies dreaming. But a more likely explanation is it represents a primal fear of being helpless in the face of danger, like a rabbit trapped in headlights of a speeding car. Some frightening dreams fail to arouse any strong emotions. Others have great emotion and physical manifestations. A dream of shooting an assailant could symbolize the power to overcome obstacles, for example. Very good. Okay, want to hear what some symbols are supposed to represent? Clocks and watches stand for the human heart and thus the emotional side of the dreamer's life. A stopped clock indicates a chilling or stilling of the emotions, while a clock racing out of control suggests that emotions might be overwhelming. Shells are a profoundly spiritual symbol that often show up in dreams.
As in seashells?
Seashells, yes. Linked with the sea also stands for the divine female. Venus was born from a shell off the coast of Cyprus. Mirrors. Seeing a strange face in a mirror often indicates an identity crisis. The face is
now. That person.
When I look in the mirror, I wonder.
If the face is strange or frightening, it may stand for a shadow archetype that represents your own dark side. Somebody walking out of a mirror may hint new aspects of emerging from an unconscious state to explore something new. Anybody ever had dreams of those things? Rainbows usually represent redemption, good news, and promise. In the level 3 dreams, they can be associated with a magical quest for treasure or self-knowledge. Lightning and snow are common too. Dreams of the earth. Barking dogs are a symbol of God.
That was good.
Water is common also. Water is a symbol of the depths of imagination or the sources of creativity. To dream of swimming suggests the dreamer should venture into this realm because if he or she struggles to float, it may be a warning and about caution for something that you are about to encounter. Animals are common also. Horses, lions, wild beasts. The lion almost invariably appears in dreams as a regal symbol of power and pride. I had a dream last night that a mountain lion was trying to get into my house. And so I was boarding up the windows and the doors. And when I remembered this morning, I remembered that I had just watched a video on Facebook of 3 mountain lions on a deck in Evergreen. Maybe some of you all saw that. Beautiful yellow mountain lion, 3 of them walking around on a deck. And that's my only connection to that. So I'm thinking that's just recycled in my memories. Yeah. Any questions on symbols? George?
What did you have to eat?
Good question. Something that was indigestion, probably. Causing it, Jim.
I heard that elephants were supposed to be sources of wisdom.
Yes.
And
I read that too. That's what it said. Yeah, stability and wisdom. And longevity. To mention that.
I never heard that.
Also for those two.
What is that?
Longevity.
Yeah, but
long life, solid, stable.
But what does it?
Elephants.
Elephants.
Oh, elephants.
Elephants. Okay. Yes.
I had this dream has replayed in various configurations, but the one that I remember very well was for the Big Sur about 7 or 8 years ago, and I was in charge of building a bunch of shelves for the Denver Inner City Parish, and I had something like 15 or 20 guys coming to my garage to build these shelves, and we had to build all these shelves in one day. And so I had been worried about this for 3 or 4 days. And the night before this this big serve happened, my dream worked it all out.
Yeah.
And by the time I woke up, I had that all worked out, and the whole thing came off just fine. And all the people were there working. Nobody cut their finger off. Nobody got in a fight and hit each other with a hammer. I mean, it was astounding that the whole thing was done by my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's happened in other smaller projects. But that was a big project.
Yeah. The brain is working away. Yeah.
Do any of these books mention or talk about what kind of dreams people have where they feel that there was a message to them from God? Are there any dreams that tell us that? They didn't mention anything.
I wondered about that too, Jane. No spiritual messages. No, these, at least by this psychology professor, didn't deal with that. But
I wonder
that's a
if
good
people
question.
have associated some of their dreams with that.
I'm glad you asked that, because
that's what happened to the Magi.
Yes,
They were warned in a dream to
so
not
I asked,
Herod.
It's very difficult, I think, especially for me, because I think, is that just me wishing that? Is that something that, because I have such strength in my willpower, I guess, for some things, that I'm just saying, yeah, that's what it's supposed to mean, because is it me thinking that? It's hard to discern if that happens.
Well, I think you could certainly say it's wish fulfillment on one hand, but on the other hand, under these psychedelic controlled experiments that are going on, people feel they're they're in communication with the creator, and that they can be enhanced. So one might surmise there is that potential. That is a potential for some people to have that direct being a oneness, being able to communicate. So
Well, I wouldn't mean that you'd have a conversation, but maybe a thought comes to you about something that and you can do, and you think, was that just me thinking that?
Or is
that
the Holy Spirit communicating?
Yeah.
Yes.
Some years ago, probably 20, 30 years ago, I had this dream of Jesus standing there with his arms out, telling me to come to him.
Oh.
So, and it's vivid to this day. I don't remember many dreams, but that one I do. It was very cool. That was good. And I believe it was God saying, come to me. And it was a time in my life where things were not clear cut, I'll say. So
I asked Rev Mark about, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I would say, yes, spiritual stuff does enter your dreams.
Yeah. I was talking with Rev Mark yesterday and told him we were going to be talking about this today. And I asked him, did he have many people over the years come to him and say, I feel like the Spirit has talked to me in dreams, or had visions of spiritual things? And he said, no, not really. But he said, I thoroughly believe that the Holy Spirit can talk to us, and does occasionally through dreams, like in every other mode of communication is possible. That was his thought. Yeah.
Well, you talk with people, if you're around people who talk in tongues, the Pentecostal tradition, they're in communication. It's hard for us, some of us who are so rational, to understand that element. But there are people who can get into such an emotional state that they are in contact communication. If you've ever been in a Pentecostal, they're moving and shaking.
I've seen it. We attended Pentecostal church for 8 years. I didn't know it.
Does anybody keep a dream diary or journal? I don't either, but
they say it's very helpful.
That's what this book says. Yes, it says whatever methods you find helpful, a dream diary can be especially productive. Keep a pen and a notebook by your pillow and try to write down your dreams as soon as you wake up, because they can quickly evaporate.
Yeah.
Don't delay your writing until later. There are many ways of keeping a dream diary. Some people suggest having a separate column for events, characters, colors, and emotions, and categorizing memories by the types that appear. Good memories, bad memories, predictive, violent, other types. The best method is to write down the dream, then analyze and categorize it at your leisure later.
Right. I had an experimental psychology class back in high school, I remember, and our teacher wanted us to do that, but he wanted us to set an alarm every 15 minutes. So we would wake up and remember our dream and log it down. Yeah, every 15 minutes. Well, high schoolers can do that. Yeah. Set an egg timer and you hear that and you wake up and you're supposed to log it, right then. Something else that she told us that you haven't touched yet was, and I remember this, we talked about being paralyzed or paralytic in our dream. She said that our body actually has a chemical that shuts down all of our extremities so that we don't move when we're dreaming. Otherwise, we'd be up sleepwalking and punching our spouse. So we had this natural ability that our body would freeze. And I told her, I remember because I was cut up at 17, I said there was one part of my body that was not paralytic.
That's a whole other category. Interesting. Yeah. So what happens with the people who are sleepwalkers?
That chemical
didn't work for them. Interesting. Another couple of tips. This writer says, start by recounting your dream. Try to recall as much as you can. Write it down. Then put your emotional reactions to it. Did you behave as your waking self would have in your dream, or were you a completely different person in the environment? Try to make associations from the images and events in your dreams and link them to your own waking life. Maybe it is wish fulfillment in some cases. Yeah. Very good. So different ways to do it.
What about falling? Falling and never landing.
Just falling and never landing?
As a kid, I would dream I was falling and fall out of bed. And it would wake me up, but I always fell out of bed when I dreamed that I was falling.
I just woke up in a sweat.
Yeah, I've had those two. But let me, I put my finger right on the flying interpretation. Let me read that one to you. The urge to rise into the air is one of the most frequent themes in dreams and in human mythology and legend. The power of flight is reserved for the gods and other supernatural beings. Mercury, the winged messenger, and the flying carpet of Arabian legends maybe are connected to dreams and provide the images for the dreams that we have. In part because of these deep aspirations, flying is one of the most common recurring dreams. Taking to the air produces a sense of freedom and release from normal physical and emotional constraints. To escape from gravity in dreams is one way to escape from the everyday concerns that are weighing us down. That's according to some commentators, dreams of flight are closely related to psychic out-of-body experiences in which the soul or the spirit also seems to float free of the physical body.
I've had that out-of-body experience.
Have you?
Even the Apostle Paul was mentioned that.
Yes.
So what falling means, you're out of
control.
And
could be.
That's just my guess.
That's a good guess. Zoomers, any other thoughts? You have flying or falling dreams also? Susan, Lola, Sue, or Rogers? Not too much to share? Okay.
You used the word that made me think of something.
What's that, Jim?
A doctor prescribed some blood pressure pills to a patient, And the patient said, are there any side effects? And he said, yes, longevity.
And dreaming of elephants. All right, well, this has been fun. Thank you for sharing your dreams. Any final thoughts or wacky dreams?
For the record,
yes, sir.
Peyote is not smoked. It's chewed.
Oh, okay.
Like chewing tobacco?
It's chewed, not smoked.
Okay. Good.
So go home today knowing something different than when you walked in here. Chewed, not smoked.
What is it?
It's a drug that's used in a ceremony by Native people.
No, but is it a plant?
Yeah, it's a plant. It's a cactus plant.
Very good. Well, someday we're going to do an hour on Native American religion and visions and things like that. It'd be interesting. Thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great week. Bye.
Talk to you next week.
Yeah, we'll watch that game.